I call this meeting to order of the Downtown Development Authority. I will call the roll. Board Member Asaf.
Here.
Board Member Corbin. Board Member Farhat.
Present.
Board Member Horn.
Here.
Board Member Kilgus. Board Member Ochab.
Here.
Board Member Richner.
Here.
Board Member Turnbull.
Here.
Board Member Wixon.
Here.
And Mayor Hodges.
Here.
Thank you. So tonight's the Downtown Development Authority meeting. And so we're going to move on to public comment agenda items. And so I have several written public comments for agenda items. This comment comes from Brian Vosberg, City of Grosse Pointe Park. I applaud and encourage the city exploring the creation of rain gardens at City Hall. This continues work that the Discontinued Sustainability Committee advocated for many years. I do find it inappropriate that the funding for this is being proposed to come from the DDA, an entity created to assist the businesses along East Jefferson. Let's reserve DDA funds paid into by the tax-paying businesses on East Jefferson to assist small businesses who are trying to recover from multiple years of health restrictions, flood buildings, and other aging infrastructure. The city's general fund was just given a glowing review of its funding growth and increase in reserves by the city's longtime auditor. The city's general fund, which is paid into by all residents of the city, should fund improvements to a building that serves all residents of the city. This comment comes from Mr. Greg Donnelly in Grosse Pointe Park. First, the December 8th meeting minutes are misleading in several ways. That's not surprising because that agenda was also misleading. The parking study lacked input from residents and therefore was not representative of the actual situation. I live in this area. My neighbors don't want more parking or more houses torn down to make way for parking. The $200K pledge from the URIF for a parking lot at Jefferson Lake Point is a fraction of the cost to build it, especially in an environmentally responsible way. Furthermore, any such parking lot should be built to allow for future development of the site. This should include things like the first floor commercial and retail space facing Jefferson in apartments or condos, maybe for our aging population on upper floors. Wire tax dollars paying for a parking lot that nobody but the URIF wants. The URIF dominated the last meeting with an exhaustive sales pitch for their proposed SCOP Center. This presentation was given without any public notice, which included assertions of support from key organizations on the other side of the border in Detroit, which were false. Second on today's agenda, why is the DDA being asked to pay for a rain garden at City Hall? Aren't DDA funds meant to support our local small business community? And where's the comprehensive plan for the entire City Hall block that includes the proposed URIF parking? This comment comes from Ryan DiMaggio in Grosse Pointe Park. I was attempting to get up to speed with the latest DDA information, knowing an arts theater has been a hot topic. Number one, is there a DDA mission statement? Please provide if so. Number two, noticing the 33 million build estimate for the SCOP Center, I'm curious as to the investment amount that would be expected from current GPP residents. Question, what would be the future ongoing impacts to each resident to funding this project, taxes, millages? With 400 seat estimate, I do agree with many prior concerns of actual parking support within this area. I would love to see an architect's rendering of what 200 vehicles added would look like. Working in design, a visual always tells 1,000 words and might better calm the community concerns of pressure to the resident parking or easily highlight disconnects. I also like to mention that any donation gift amount toward our city is beautifully gracious, and especially thank their family for the initiative and thought. Those are my written public comments. Is there any spoken public comment on agenda items tonight? There's later at the end, Al, if you'd like to make a public comment for non-agenda. Thank you. Moving on to our next item. Actually, adoption of December 8th, 2021 meeting minutes. I would ask if there's a motion for this. Is there support? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, moving on. We're now at the selection of chair and vice chair for the Downtown Development Authority. The DDA board for the year 2022 is required to appoint a chair and vice chair person to represent the DDA leadership. Former Chair Hesberg recently resigned from the position at the last meeting in December. And Aline Carlisle, our vice chair, unfortunately passed away, leaving voids in leadership. So first, what I'm going to do is entertain a motion if somebody would like to appoint somebody for the chair position, and then also for vice chair. So I will entertain that now if there's any motions for the chairmanship of the DDA board.
I motion to appoint Ben Whitson.
Is there a support for this?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ben, would you like to make any comments?
It's a little surprise. No, I guess they.
That's a
Maybe we
pretty
should
good
switch seats though.
Yeah, you want
because,
to switch, Ben?
You get
No,
the gavel,
no.
or at least pass the gavel down there.
All right, yes. Yeah, now you're official. Here you go.
Watch your fingers.
Yeah. And now our next position of a vice chair, is there a motion for somebody to be considered for the vice chair position?
Motion for Andy Richter.
I was gonna just see if there were volunteers.
Is there,
Second.
Uh, I guess so, yeah, that's okay.
okay,
Yeah.
all in favor, say
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? You want to make an
Abstained. Oh, I didn't see the mirror there. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, going to the game tonight.
Nice. Moving on to our next agenda topic is the budget preparation. So the DDA budget ends on June 31st. Our new fiscal year budget for 22-23 starts on July 1st. In order to consider priorities for the budget to be presented to the DDA board, I'll be sending out a priority list for all of you to consider. Please rate them in a high, medium, or low priorities, and as well including your ideas for consideration, within the DDA that I should work on when I present to you for the potential approval of that budget. As well, just so everybody knows, as part of this process, the DDA board will consider this budget. It then goes to city council for their approval, and then it goes back to DDA for formal adoption. So I will have probably by tomorrow, or see, tomorrow's Wednesday, so tomorrow or Thursday, I'll have, for the end of the week. Any other comments or questions at this time?
I was wondering if this year, as part of the budget package, we could get a little more detailed breakdown of the current year expenses, and then why there might be any deviation from that for the next year. It might just be helpful in going through the budget.
Yeah, we can do a comparison.
Just to add, speaking of exercise, the council will schedule a workshop in April to study the budget, so it'll be important to have that input prior to that time.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to our next agenda topic is rain garden concept at City Hall. So what is a rain garden? Rain gardens are a type of water capture feature in landscaping that helps slow and absorb runoff from storms. Other features include stormwater planters, downspout planters, stormwater trees, and tree trenches. Rain gardens, they can help capture rainwater before flooding on the property or flow into a storm drain. It basically helps hold it together so that we can reduce the impact into our storm drains. And obviously, as you know, this has been a topic of discussion that we've had since the storm events we've had in June and July. And so the city is looking into ways that we can certainly help provide an impact to not only our facilities, our businesses, but also our residents, and trying to ensure that, we moving forward want to be a very sustainable and mindful community. I am very proud to note that we currently are involved with the Michigan Green Communities Challenge, which is a challenge led by the Michigan Municipal League and other entities. Currently, right now, we are at a bronze status in Grosse Pointe Park. I would certainly like to see us move into the silver and gold status. Currently, right now, with the city forester, Brian Coulter, he's very passionate about this challenge, as well as the Beautification Commission. Excuse me. And so we're very excited about, moving Grosse Pointe Park towards the sustainable path. And so as you can see from this picture, currently the front of the city hall has downspouts that run onto the brick and concrete surface, which creates a potential safety hazard. And several of the trees in that area have incurred a disease called the pear trellis rust, which is from the Cleveland pear tree. And so we're looking at, as of after winter time, that we look to remove those trees, and at the same time, we considered maybe there's an idea that we could, provide an example for residents and also make a beautiful landscape in front of Grosse Pointe Park City Hall. And so we're working on this together, Brian Coulter and I, with the Beautification Commission to garner support and also work with contacts that keep Michigan beautiful. And so currently the impact, I don't have one at this time because we still want to review what are complete options for the board to consider. There's a lot of options that we could really go about, but I think at this time we're really looking at the rain garden swale, which would essentially be taking a dip, removing the bricks in front of those areas, digging several feet down, and then we would be putting wildflowers in that area. So something that would also look very nice, considering we have the butterfly garden in the middle of the parking lot in front of City Hall. So it's just another method of see what we can do. And I think if we do it well, it could be something that we could share as a practice for residents and other entities moving forward. So part of my recommendation, I'm going to continue to review this and bring it to the next DDA meeting for consideration. And I'll take any comments, questions, or concerns you may have.
Let's go over some details about the capacity of water and how much can it take. Understand the capacity and
Okay.
how that would benefit just the current drain system.
That'd be good to know.
Well, they have an idea.
Yep, and that's what I want to present a cost to you. And I like the capacity idea.
Nick, is there, I guess, the public comments that came through written comment, I think they do kind of bring up a point. Not that I think this is going to be an expensive, like it's not going to be expensive, but I guess I just wondered if there's a reason they should be paid for it specifically, because we are supposed to support the businesses. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just a little on the fence. I know we haven't seen a cost yet on it.
Yeah.
But I think that we should be really cognizant of the fact that we're spending, economic development money to beautify the city. I don't think anyone sitting up here would disagree with the idea of the rain garden or the impact of it and your initiatives for the city in general. But I just think it's a little odd that it comes up. So that's just.
And to answer your question as well, so I respect your point, but the City Hall campus is actually as well in the Downtown Development Authority. Probably what I'm gonna, with your ideas now, see if that there's something maybe in the future budget, maybe we could look to, include more, maybe in the capital improvements or something, if there's some areas of the DDA district that we could look to incorporate this, but
Is general landscaping of this building and the adjacent properties handled by the DDA budget?
that is handled by the DDA budget.
So like the mowing and everything?
So on the traffic islands on Jefferson is contracted out by a contractor by the name of Southern Gardener, who also assists in planting over at the butterfly garden over here, and also the plantings around the City Hall facilities as well. Along the sidewalks up to Westchester, there's certain plantings in those areas that Southern Gardener assists in. Otherwise, the actual mowing is done by our city employees of the DPW.
Okay, so the DDA is already has some interest in what we've been doing here anyway with the gardens. Okay.
But good comments,
Yeah,
and I definitely want to
I'm
see.
with you on that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I guess.
Mayor Hodges?
So as we embark in the master plan process for the city, it seems as though we're kind of missing a big piece of the puzzle, and that is our municipal campus and how we look at the entire campus as a whole and how it fits into the master plan. So have we considered perhaps engaging in some way in a study to look at things, including City Hall, public safety, the library, the information from the traffic study, some flow discussions, but also some of the other things like the rain garden, stormwater management, and the charging station? How can we look at this as a whole rather than in pieces and parcel? And also we have an opportunity, being that we are at the gateway to the points, and we do have a lack of a sense of arrival to our campus. And I think that what you're trying to accomplish, which I think the rain garden is pretty cool, gives a bit of a sense of arrival as well at the City Hall facility.
Mhm.
But I do think that it's time for us to look at this as a whole, looking at how things have changed. Are we going to be doing metered parking? Obviously, the parking condition of the existing parking is pretty bad.
Mhm.
And how can we look at this, engage and make possibly an RFP process for just a conceptual design, which should be a limited investment. And then allow that to be worked with the planning commission and kind of determining what the best steps would be to, move forward and maybe have a better sense of arrival to our municipal campus. Just a thought.
I like it.
Short of that, which of course that's a holistic planning view, which I think is important, more on a micro level. And given the feedback that we received, I did refresh my, I took a quick look at the bylaws and that and found some outtakes that I do think support something like this coming under the DDA's purview, whether it's the obligation to prevent deterioration, to encourage renovation or the reuse of vacant or unsightly property, these kinds of investments, I think advance that. Promoting economic growth, encouraging expansion, rehabbing a public facility, which I think this could be potentially be considered part of a public facility, obviously. So, and there's not a lot of language in there that says we're small business focused. I mean, obviously we're business focused. We want that economic growth, but that sounds to me like a chamber of commerce role or the business association where you would be focused in that way. And then just from a budgetary standpoint, the more we can protect the general fund for underfunded liabilities and put expenditures into tax increment and financing authority or downtown development authority, I think the better long-term, assuming that we can make the case legally and that it does fit the definition. So I do think that's an important consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Good discussion. Zach? That's why I make sure you weren't forgotten. Okay, all right. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item is new and old business. Does anybody on the board have a new or old business they'd like to discuss?
I had a general question, Rick.
Yeah.
I've gotten emails regarding DDA items at my personal email address,
Okay,
and I was just wondering what is the city policy on that, because I know those would probably be subject to Freedom of Information Act, and I haven't. I just wanted to ask what I should do about that, or how we handle that kind of correspondence.
so are these, when I send you an email and delivery packets, or are you talking you've been
No,
received by
Like
individual
public
residents?
comments, or like individual residents. I'm not sure, because when I looked on the city website, it looked like my personal email was redacted from like my DDA application, so I
Right.
wasn't sure
Yeah,
how people were getting it or what the appropriate way to respond to that would be.
so, yeah, we don't have the DDA members' personal emails on the city website, so I'm surprised to hear that.
I mean, it could be from like LinkedIn or something, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I just wasn't sure how I should approach.
So something like that, I would certainly, bring to my attention, forward me and ask, I'll review with the city attorney, how you should go about that. But certainly if it's a question pertaining to this board, it's something I would certainly forward to myself and, we can review and I can provide you the input. But in the meantime, certainly, being members of the DDA, you don't have city emails, so you're not subject to FOIA.
Okay, I
but-
just want to make sure that wouldn't suddenly turn my personal email into that or something.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so, yeah, absolutely. If there's anything like that, please, send it on and I'll be happy to help.
okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's no further new or old business, I'm going to move on to public comment non-agenda items, which I have no written public comment for non-agenda items, but if there's anyone in the crowd that would like to speak, please state your name, stand up.
My name is Al Baser, and I live at 30 Point Park Place, kind of those across the street. So good evening, Mayor, Mr. City Manager, ladies and gentlemen, of the DDA. The reason I am here, first of all, I emailed Jim Robson all these comments. I'm going to make, he asked for his opinion, and he emailed me back and said that I made very good points. So I want to make that clear before I start. About 2 or 3 weeks before the last council meeting, several of our residents happened to see something in Detroit, the Grosse Pointe Times, to the effect that the park was going to make our green space into a parking lot. to get an appointment to see our city manager. I was told that, I was wondering why we didn't get the 500-foot notice. He said because it's park property, the DDA basically, with no notification to anyone, including city council, can do whatever they feel necessary because it is park property. Now, I have two rebuttals to that statement. One is that all park funds come from people in Grosse Pointe Park, all the property tax money from citizens, water bills, fitness center bills, whatever. This is what, owns the property. This property belongs to us, all the citizens of Grosse Pointe Park that pay taxes. So that to me is rebuttal. Also, the fact that anything that the DBA might say in regards to park property can be reversed. And I'll give you an example, which again, because Jim Robson happened to be on the council at the time, he said this was a good point. There was a time that Windmill Point in the second parking lot, the park wanted to build a new water plant, which because of the complete incompetence of Great Lakes Water was something that was a very worthy project. Yet, even though it was park property, it was reversed by residents very close by who wrote to the city council, at grosepointepark.org, and it never happened. That to me is more significant and more important than 40 parking places out there. So that, and then also when it comes to property tax, a lot of people, I don't know what people think about the condo, but it is not like a senior citizen place. There was nothing, before that was built, there was nothing that gave any money to Grosse Pointe Park. Currently, we get the city over $300,000 in property tax annually. That's for whatever uses that the property tax comes from. But, all the residents, would be more, tell what the total property tax is. That's, much more important. But anyway, during our talk, you indicated that St. Ambrose, which is really controlled by the Archdiocese, had given permission for the church parking lot to provide parking spaces when there was services weren't there. And I asked about Merit Academy, which is administered by St. Ambrose. You indicated that we needed 40 more parking spaces. And when I drove through Merit Academy, which is administered by St. Ambrose, but also owned by Archdiocese, and wondered whether they have been contacted. They have more than 40 parking spaces, and it's also behind, all you need is a stop sign there for people to walk over to the community center or the arts center or the theater.
Al, unfortunately, your time is up for public comment.
Well, thing is, I wanted to point out that no one seems to have given any impact on the condos. All the units have windows going into the master bedroom, living room, dining room. And then we have 5 people working from home. And the impact of headlights going into, this is uncalled for. And I think these other things with the Merit Academy need to be investigated. The lady I talked to was Turnbull, and she said she's got nothing to do with parking. So I'd like an answer. If anybody has contacted Merit Academy, there's no need for this parking.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Chair, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I do want to, if I may just address Mr. So, I agree with what he's saying in terms of they are immediately impacted. They're really the only residents that are immediately impacted by the lot, because they have balconies that literally go up to Lake Point that face the lot. So, I mean, I know we've already, approved the idea of putting a lot there, but I think we should maybe consider, if the lot gets built, that we at least have a discussion with the homeowners association at Point Park to see if we can either obstruct it with shrubs or something. I mean, I can't comment to the mayor again because I don't know the answer if anyone's reached out to that, but I think that we still have to approve a plan for that parking lot. We haven't approved the design.
Yeah, and ultimately to that, I did have a meeting with Mr. Mazer, and I did say that I absolutely would like to include the homeowner association in that process and in review of that.
Well, in response to that, there are other people that use this green space. In the northwest corner, you've got a lot of these 2-flat, 4-flat families. It's a very diverse community. And throughout the year, winter and summer, those kids are seen playing out there. It is a wonderful thing. It's going to make everybody part of the human race and have this diversity where the kids play together. That's number one. There have been, people have seen yoga classes out there. I used to play catch with my 2 grandsons out there. People play catch with their kids besides the kids working out there all 12 months of the year. They're out there playing. People walking their dogs, playing catch with their kids too. So these are things that are going on in the green space. Those people are impacted also. They have no place for their kids to go. If they're working, where are the kids gonna go? They don't have access, have anybody to go to, say Patterson Park or Windmill Point. They're taking away a place for them to have an activity that's great for making us in the future one human race instead of other things. So there are other people that do stuff.
I believe you.
We see it. Other people that live there see it.
Any other public comments tonight? Sure, you want a motion
To adjourn.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.